The Spotlight brought to you by Beacon Plumbing.
Good evening and welcome to the Spotlight. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm David Rose. Snohomish County has a new sheriff in town. Susanna Johnson defeated incumbent Sheriff Adam Fortney with more than 52% of the votes. The campaign set a new state record for money raised and spent on image spots and attack ads. Sheriff-elect Johnson told the Spotlight's Alejandra Guzman that building public trust in the department will be her top priority.
This was our first chance to meet the sheriff-elect and see what her priorities are. I can tell you she already has the first 100 days planned out, and one of those includes keeping the community safe.
They do want public trust. They do want public safety.
Voters made their choice. A close race for the top cot spot as Bethel's Deputy Chief Susanna Johnson beat incumbent Sheriff Adam Fortney.
I am feeling honored.
Her vision for Snohomish County, reinstating transparency and public trust.
If people don't call 911 and they don't trust who's going to come to the door, and I haven't done a good job of saying, trust us in your response, our response to 911, that call doesn't happen in the first place. So everything builds from that.
Johnson opened up about her 100-day plan, which includes a three-tiered approach to public safety.
The expectation should be obvious that we need to hold ourselves, and me in the first chair, I have to be able to hold myself accountable first, and our staff, before we can turn around and hold our community accountable.
In situations like these, the sheriff-elect says more can be done to promote transparency, including uses of force, collisions, pursuits, and information already available that isn't being shared with you, the community.
There are some impressive dashboards out there that are more interactive that also can get to the demographics of importance. So use of force relative to our communities of color. Not a place we've gone in the past, but a place I want to take us, because those are important questions for our community.
With new sites in mind, it's hard to ignore the ongoing issues plaguing the community. Spikes in car theft, more property crimes, and an increase in homicides. While corrections and devices are in the works to curb car thefts, she says she's bringing back what works.
We used to have a partnership with the Marysville Police Department. That partnership ended in the last few years. That's something that I would bring back. There are many things we can do that will affect each of these crime issues and start moving that needle.
Step after step, Johnson says she's prepared to take. She says it's her experience in previous roles as SWAT squad leader and detective that prepared her for this role. But before she tackles community issues, there's a more pressing one: staffing shortages, which has now become a nationwide issue.
But you would be surprised, things like morale, even accreditation. There are some things that we can do administratively to help out our line staff to make us a more sought-after place to recruit to.
Johnson will be sworn in before taking office in 2024.
Now to a story we've been following closely on the Spotlight. The Seattle City Council finally voted to fund a gunfire alert system called Shotspotter. The technology uses audio sensors and AI filters to detect the sound of gunfire. The Seattle-based CEO of the company that makes Shotspotter told me this technology can help fight crime, improve response times, even save lives when there's no one around to call 911. But critics say it could lead to over-policing and violate privacy. Mayor Bruce Harrell believes that the tech's promise will win over critics eventually.
I'm very confident that the council realizes that we must try new tools, and the acoustic gunfire locating system is a tool to gather evidence. And there's a reason why other cities are investing in this technology, and the question becomes, what is it trying to prove? It's trying to prove that we get better data on where ballistic activity is occurring.
Although the council okayed the funding, it will still have to adopt a separate measure to approve the actual use of surveillance technology. Well, it was supposed to be a getaway for a group of 6. Instead, it was a house party for more than 100 people, and it ended in gunfire. Tonight, we're hearing from the man who rented out his South Hill home that's now become a crime scene. The Spotlight's Nia Wong spoke with the homeowner who says he's disturbed by what unfolded.
When he spoke with me tonight, he says he is just grateful no one was killed. He was actually back at this property cleaning up from the mess from this house party, which he tells me was a lesson learned the hard way. After an unexpected party turned crime scene broke out at this Lakeview rental property early Sunday morning. Owner Andre Balta says he is still calculating damages, which he'll have to pay out of pocket.
If I count the TV, it was a big TV, 86-inch. Some window screens were broken. I would say in the range of $3,000.
While his home was listed on multiple short-term rental sites, Balta says this recent booking was made through a smaller platform.
I was in contact directly with a lady called Emma who booked the property for 2 nights for 6 people.
A booking that Baltus says was nothing like what the renter described. Fox 13 obtained this flyer featuring Baltus' address splashed across what was advertised as a birthday bash. The official name of the party too inappropriate to mention on air.
She was telling me that she will have a small party, something related to veteran party.
Baltus says when security cameras at the property showed big crowds showing up, he messaged the guest.
I texted a couple of times. I told her if they don't stop, because I'm not allowing parties, especially at this time, and without being informed, I'll call the police. So she stopped texting me. They dismantled the camera, so I wasn't able to see anything.
Baltus says he tried to see what was happening at the home for himself, but there were so many cars parked in front, he had to wait for police further down the street. He says despite calling police twice, they didn't come until shots were fired.
I didn't realize there were gunshots even. So, maybe fireworks or something. But then I did see people running.
At least 6 people were shot and taken to nearby hospitals.
And a bunch of people jumping over the fence, running, all of them were kids.
An experienced Baltus says he doesn't want to happen again when he lists his property on vacation rental sites in the future.
That's one of my mistakes. I'm using any possible ways to get clients.
He says he plans to list this home on bigger platforms from now on.
When you do through Airbnb, VRBO, or this good websites or big platforms, they screen the clients a lot. So you get this protection from them, which you don't get it if you do it in private, right? If you agree directly with the client.
When asked when he plans to list this again on websites, he just tells me soon. As for those victims, 5 had non-life-threatening injuries. The youngest victim was only 17 years old, and police tell me he has improved from critical condition.
A Ravensdale father and husband who was out walking his dog never came home. Now, weeks later, a suspect is in custody, facing charges in the murder of Nick Vallison. Court documents reveal the suspect, Andrew Boehm, ran over Vallison in a stolen truck on September 21st. Investigators say the motive was because Vallison confronted Boehm about illegally dumping a large U-Haul truck in the woods. That U-Haul was stolen. Investigators say Boehm then set the truck he ran over him with on fire to get rid of the evidence. Prosecuting attorneys are requesting a $4 million bail. It was granted. Boehm, who is a registered sex offender for targeting a 12-year-old girl, is due back in court on November 30th. Nick leaves behind 2 daughters, and the family feels lost without him.
It's every day we have to just make a decision to get up and do this, and more importantly now is just to find justice for Nick. That's what keeps us going.
This week marks 1 year since 31-year-old Kevin Mattson was killed in a hit-and-run collision. Pierce County Sheriff's investigators are asking for your help to identify the driver responsible. And the reward has been raised to $3,000 thanks to contributions from the victim's family. On November 15th, 2022, at 3 o'clock in the morning, deputies were called out to a deadly crash. It happened off 108th Street South in Parkland. Detectives determined that the suspect's vehicle had been traveling westbound on 108th when it hit Kevin. The driver never stopped. Kevin was the father of 2 little girls, a 12-year-old and a 4-year-old. His mom says his death has been extremely difficult on their family.
My baby's gone, and I'll never get him back. And he didn't deserve this. He liked skateboarding, spent a lot of time doing that. He liked basketball. And he was a real gregarious people person.
Parts left behind at the scene indicate the suspect's vehicle is a light-colored 2009 to 2012 Audi A4, similar to the one you see pictured here. It would have front end damage as well. If you have any information about Kevin's death or the driver who hit him, contact Crime Stoppers anonymously through the P3 Tips app on your cell phone. Again, $3,000 reward will be yours. You can remain anonymous. It's video that you were never meant to see. An aggressive encounter between a police officer and a JBLM soldier. What whistleblowers are now revealing as the spotlight continues. This is video that sent shockwaves through JBLM. An officer pictured in the video is trying to get a DNA swab, but when a female soldier refuses, things spiral quickly. JBLM police officers say the incident was quickly swept under the rug. The officer in question didn't face punishment, per Whistleblowers. In fact, he's headed to a bigger and better job, one that will bring him into contact with the public moving forward. The Spotlight's Matthew Smith and Fox 13's investigative team have spent months verifying claims and uncovering a paper trail.
I'm told that higher-ups are aware of this video and what that officer, Timothy Scholl, has done. But the officers who smuggled this video out tell the Fox 13 investigative team that those higher-ups don't care.
I can only imagine how scared she was.
It's the video you were never meant to see. A female soldier inside the Joint Base Lewis McChord alcohol processing room.
Scholl, it would appear, is striking her or forcing her head up against the wall, basically assaulting her.
Did it surprise you at all to see that no one else reacted in that video? They all kind of just stood there.
That's the lack of knowledge and training on the soldiers.
This officer can't show his face out of fear of retaliation. Tens of thousands of people work behind the gates and barbed wire of JBLM daily. It's a world seldom seen by the public. Now, a group of whistleblowers are risking their careers to expose what they call a broken police system. Those officers telling Fox 13 Timothy Scholl is just one example of the system's failings.
The fact that nobody has done anything and has allowed him to continue to do wrong, it's not justice. It's not why I took this job.
But there are questions over whether Scholl should have ever been in that room. Long before that day, a string of concerning behaviors began here along 8th Avenue East. Signs posted warn that you're entering a military installation. The road itself is public property. But in late 2020, Scholl didn't seem to understand that, leading him to follow a civilian down that road, eventually illegally detaining her. As a supervisor would later write, his actions were unlawful and stepped outside the scope of his authority, adding that Scholl, quote, lacked the fundamental training and understanding of basic police concepts and safe practices to be successful in his current position. Multiple documents obtained by Fox 13 paint a troubling timeline. After his late 2020 run-in, he was put back into training. Within months, he failed to meet necessary benchmarks for officer safety, critical thinking, and ability to multitask. So, higher-ups extended his training. 2 weeks later, another run-in along the same stretch of road that kicked this all off. The patrol division chief writing that had his training officer not, quote, been there to stop him, Sergeant Scholl would have made another unlawful trespassing arrest of a citizen stopped on the side of the road. Then, yet another extension after yet another failure to meet training benchmarks. This time, a group voted to terminate his training.
As a person, I've never had an issue with that with him as a person, but in profession-wise, I wouldn't even let him be a mall cop.
This man outranked Scholl. Over Zoom, he tells me that Scholl's role as a civilian officer was to teach MPs or his less experienced military counterparts that fill out the department.
He is the person in charge there. They're all looking to him. And again, his actions show that he has no idea of what he's doing and the harm that he's causing.
I just wonder how it felt to see that.
Traumatic. Like, it honestly felt like PTSD because it brought back memories.
Fox 13 was able to track down the woman in this video. She was shocked to learn it even existed. Now out of the military, she didn't want to show her face, but agreed to tell her story, saying she was numb in that moment. Being a soldier had been her dream. Training at JBLM should have been a career high. Instead, she admitted that things had already soured, that throughout training, she had to normalize how she was treated.
There were other military police officers basically just watching and not saying anything, which led me to believe it was the right thing. So I couldn't do anything but just let it happen. Looking at the video actually broke my heart, seeing that was mishandled like that.
When he gets frustrated, he's someone that needs to raise his voice and then get physical, where he starts to try to, now I'm gonna arrest you, now I'm gonna do this, now I'm gonna do that.
Recently, Scholl left JBLM, not due to this incident though. As his LinkedIn page indicates, he now works for the Department of Homeland Security. Reached by phone, Scholl tells me he's currently out of state, training at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center. Soon, he'll be working at federal buildings for the Federal Protective Service. Over the course of 15 minutes, he told me that yes, his past actions have been questionable. But then doubled down that the illegal arrest he made wasn't illegal, instead calling it a gray area, despite his own signed review where he stated that he, quote, made a bad apprehension and subsequently violated the woman's civil rights. And as for the video, he said she refused to give him a DNA swab after being sent for an infraction, complaining that she clenched her jaw, something that, quote, got the best of me and, quote, got under my skin. Asked whether she deserved an apology, he said no. And given a day to think about it, I asked again, this time on camera.
No. Again, everything needs to go through the JBLM PAO.
It's the good old boy system. That's all there is to say about it.
Because I'm pretty sure Homeland Security has no clue of any of these things of his past. None.
Those who've worked the job say that Scholl, seen here, is a danger and that he shouldn't be around civilians with a weapon. As for the woman in the video,
I just pray that he doesn't do it to somebody else, that I feel like a system that I should be protected by didn't protect me, and it's unfortunate that I was the person that was hurt at the end.
The soldier says she doesn't want anyone to just avoid the military. It simply didn't work out for her. Now, as for Scholl and DHS, I'm still working to get information from DHS, whether any of this information of what happened here was made available by JBLM. As for the base themselves, after days of back and forth and missing their initial deadline they requested, we got 2 sentences back for multiple questions. They say this incident was reviewed, investigated, and closed.
Still ahead, there's holiday shoppers and then there's holiday shoplifters. How Bellevue police want to make sure the season of giving doesn't become the season of thieving. The holiday season is upon us, and while you may be looking to shop the best steals and deals, thieves are just looking to steal. Washington retailers lost more than $1.6 billion to theft in 2022, and traditionally in-store losses spike more than 15% in the months of November and December. And this holiday season, Bellevue police are working extra to get those criminals behind bars. The Spotlight's Nikki Torres shows us how a dedicated unit is catching the next local Grinch.
Bellevue police have been running these emphasis patrols for about a month now, even dedicating a full unit to it. And so far, they say it is working. They have already arrested several suspects and also recovered stolen items.
If you want to steal from a store in Bellevue, its police department says you might want to think long and hard before you decide to have sticky fingers.
We have redeployed an entire unit to focus on retail theft emphasis. And so we have used our data dashboards and our statistics to identify the high targeted areas, the high targeted retail stores that are typically prone to thefts during the holiday season.
Right now, there are 5 Bellevue police officers running the retail theft emphasis unit.
We supplement with patrol officers, our detectives, and other resources when we do conduct these emphasis.
Not only are police officers planting themselves in areas reporting high theft, they're going undercover, walking around in plain clothes so shoplifters don't know who's walking among them.
Being within that store and that business is really a way for us to identify what is going on, and being on scene, we're able to apprehend these individuals faster.
The city of Bellevue is no stranger to retail theft. Just last year, officers arrested 3 people for stealing $93,000 worth of luxury handbags from the Louis Vuitton store at the shops at the Bravern. Even today, Bellevue police tell me theft is a recurring issue at Bellevue Square Mall. Thieves' favorite spots to take from: Nordstrom, Lululemon, Victoria's Secret, and most of all, Macy's. Outside the shopping mall, police say Bellevue's REI Co-op and the Home Depot are frequent victims of theft. These emphasis patrols have already captured suspects and put away criminals. BPD says if you try to get away with unpaid goods, be ready for a rude Christmas present in return.
If you're going to come to Bellevue and shoplift or or commit any other crimes, that you will be held accountable and we will take you to jail.
Bellevue police also told us that they found low reporting levels throughout retailers around the area. They do want to remind all businesses that anytime you have an instance of theft, it is really important that you report that. They do use the crime data dashboard when it comes to planning out these emphasis patrols.
Still ahead, a dog with a hole in its head, a utility worker with a huge space in his heart. It was an act of cruelty that brought Trooper safely home. Tonight, one tough canine is on the road to recovery after this dog was shot in the head execution style and left in the woods. Taking one look at that dog's sweet face has people questioning, how could anyone shoot him and leave him for dead? Dylan Scholda and his team with Cowlitz PUD found the injured dog in a ditch near Mount St. Helens on November 2nd. In the middle of nowhere, not just shot, but his muzzle taped shut so he couldn't cry out for help. Despite the pain and trauma, this dog still showered Dylan with love.
It was pretty clear right away just what an affectionate dog this was. As I was trying to cut the tape off its mouth, it just wanted to lay its head in my arms and just, you know, just an absolute lover.
Miraculously, the bullet did not pierce his skull. The Cowlitz County Humane Society nursed the dog back to health, and fittingly, his name is now Trooper. An employee at the Humane Society has been fostering Trooper, but this Saturday, Dylan, who is already an owner of 2 dogs, will be adopting Trooper into their family. Well, that's all the time we have on this edition of The Spotlight. Until next week, be smart and stay safe.